Hello and welcome to Transform Tuesday. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software. And today on Transform Tuesday, we're going to be talking about SMS messaging from Alpha Transform. There's been a couple of developments since the last time we brought up this subject, one of which is that you don't actually need to have your own Twilio account. So we're going to get into all of those details and more. We're also here to answer your questions. You could type them into the questions box of the GoToWebinar control panel. Joining me today is Sarah Mitchell, head of our documentation department. She's also here to answer your questions. So let's get started. Hey, quick question for you, Sarah. Is my screen showing and can you hear me?
Yes, it is, and I can hear you.
Fantastic. Good answers. All right, so let me scroll down to today's presentation, which I think is right about here. There we go. SMS notifications. So some of you are familiar with the fact that Alpha Transform has the ability to use SMS notifications when, as one of the on-submit events, when a form is submitted to the database. But we made a couple changes, and I wanted to show you what those were. First, though, let's talk about the scenarios in which you might want to use SMS messaging. Probably the most typical version of it is in a dispatch application. So you have someone back at headquarters, they've logged into Transform Central, they've gone over to Management Console, and they've created a new form or form instance for a worker that's out on the field, and they send it to them. Now, while that ticket will appear for them in the Transform app, they aren't really notified about that unless they go into the app, open it up and take a look for new tickets. So one of the options that you might want to do is have an SMS message be sent directly to that worker in the field to let them know that there's something to check for. Another good example is if someone out in the field, for example, runs into a situation that they realize needs to be escalated. Maybe they need additional parts, maybe they need, maybe something's come up. And they need to notify someone right away. You can actually have that happen from a field being from the field worker in the Transform mobile application, and maybe a manager could get an SMS notification. And a third one is maybe like a customer, someone who doesn't even have Transform might also want or also need an SMS confirmation. Here's an example. Recently, I've had someone come in to put in fiber optics into my house, which is terrific. I love the new speed, but they ask you questions because it's time of COVID, like, has anyone been sick? Has anyone been in contact with someone who's had COVID? All those standard questions, right? But after they're done, they send a follow-up SMS just reminding you that if you do develop those symptoms, please let them know because they might need to quarantine their service tech. So there's might be a million reasons why you might want to actually reach out to someone outside of just the employer and the field worker and send an SMS to a customer or a partner or someone else. So those are the scenarios. I'm going to touch mostly on the first one. Actually, I'm going to touch on all three of them. And so let's get started. To begin with, I want to let you know there are two ways to set up SMS notification. So one of the easiest basic ways is just in Alpha Transform itself. And then there's the other way, which is a little bit more intricate, but is a little bit more flexible. And that's by using the companion product Alpha Anywhere, including its new free CE edition will work for this. And you can set up a much more complicated type of response or SMS response. So let's start simple with Alpha Transform, and I'm just going to give you a quick preview of what's involved there. When you're at Transform Central, that's transform.alphasoftware.com, the first thing you'll do is you'll go to the Home tab, and you'll set Change Preferences, and you just want to make sure that you have this either turned on with your own Twilio account or turned off, in which case you can use Alpha's Twilio account. Now, we said there are some usage limits that apply. I don't know the exact number of messages, but if you don't have a Twilio account, go ahead and use it. If you use it, if you use too many, we'll let you know. We may ask you to get your own account. May not happen. But basically, just go here, make sure that that's switched off. So what that does is that's told your account that you want to start using SMS messages. And one of the options that you have here is right here where it says SMS message template is just basically like a quick sentence of what do you want to have appear in that SMS message. So let's say a new form has been dispatched to you. Okay, so that is one place that you set it up. Now, for each user in your account, so each field person is going to need to go into TransForm. Maybe you could do this for them. And go into where it says My Information. You're going to go to Change Preferences. And down here, you're going to say, you're going to turn on Send Notification via SMS. And you'll also need to turn on Send Notification when a form is dispatched to you. And then the next thing they'll need to do is type in their phone number. So in the US, that's just +1, and then area code, and then the phone number. If you have a different country code, then you'll use that country code instead of 1. So hopefully everyone is with me so far. That is probably the quickest and simplest way to set it up. Now, it's got one downside. Let's say you've got like 50 field technicians. You have to make sure that all 50 of those people have gone into their account and set this up. Unless you have their password, maybe you could go and do it for them. But that's it. There's also some limitations. You can't do an awful lot of conditions, like I only want to send the message sometimes or not other times, which is something that you can do in the Alpha Anywhere way. So let's dive into the Alpha Anywhere way and do a live demo. All right, so I'm going to open up Alpha Anywhere here, which you can get right from our website, alphasoftware.com. And we're going to go into one of the tools menu, and this one's way buried down. So follow me here. Tools, and the bottom choice, More, and the bottom choice, Transform Utilities, and the final bottom choice, Builder for TransForm on Submit Events. All right. So I'm going to click on that, and it opens up the TransForm on Submit Genie. So what does this Genie do? Well, what it does is it actually creates a JSON file with a set of instructions telling TransForm what to do when a new form has been submitted, or when a form has been submitted. It doesn't have to be a new one. You can end up opening it and submitting it again and have it trigger something. And so let me show you where that goes. That actually creates, pop here in a TransForm. That's down in here in my on submit events. This is the list view. I have a whole bunch of things that happen when a form is listed here. But let me just, and this is the JSON view. This is actually this yucky code that Alpha will actually generate for you and tells it what to do when something has been submitted. So when you're back here in Alpha, you're actually creating something that's going to be transmitted to your Alpha TransForm account. But now here's the thing. Every time you set up a set of rules and you click OK and you save, you are overwriting what is in your TransForm account. Let me just say that again. You're overwriting it. So what you should do first, if you don't want to blow away any definition that's there, if you want to just add to it, is down here, there's a link called Fetch Definition from TransForm Central. So if you have one set up, that's really important that you use this. We're going to click that Fetch Definition. And the first thing it's going to ask me for is my API key. So where do you get that? Well, you get that back here at TransForm Central again, down here where it says Get API Key. And when you choose an API key, you just choose the scope. For this one, I believe you're going to use all. You're going to choose all. You're going to click Get API Key. There's going to be a key here on the screen that it generates for you. You're going to copy that key, and you're going to come back to Alpha Anywhere and paste that in to the API key box right here. Great. So I'm going to go ahead now and click Fetch Definition because it has my key already. And it shows me here are all the actions. Those are the actions that I just showed you in the TransForm Central account. So I've got to send an email action, a SQL action. I already have an SMS message one, but I'm going to set up a new one so you can see how it's done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Add Action. And the action I'm going to choose is Send SMS Message. And now that it's here, I'm going to edit that action to tell TransForm how I'd like to have that set up. So here we are. The first thing is the TransForm form name. So we need to know which form in particular should trigger this from happening. And I happen to have one called invoices, so I'm going to choose that one. Again, it's using my API key to refer back to my TransForm account. I'm actually going to choose the one called inspections. That makes more sense. I'm going to click OK. And now condition, I'm going to go in here and I can say during this condition that it should be under what circumstance should this happen? And what you want to do is create a little tiny JavaScript thing here, which basically comes back as true or false. So if I just said right here, results equals true, if I can type, that means that's always going to be the case. Always send the SMS message whenever a inspections form is filled out. However, there might be cases in which you don't want to do that. For example, maybe you only want to send an SMS message if the status is set to closed. So we have an example here. Or maybe you want to use a form field and only set it if you have a form field called, escalate, and that's set to yes, because it's something that needs to be escalated to a manager or something like that. So here it's JavaScript, but it's not too scary. We show you the examples here, and that's how you can set up a condition under which your SMS is going to fire. So that's something you can't do right now if you define something like this in TransForm Central itself. Like the automatic way of setting it up doesn't do that. So you do need to use this kind of builder to do that. Okay. The next thing we're going to go into is description. I'm actually going to skip that. You don't need to fill that in. And the next one is the phone number. Now you can absolutely hard code in a phone number. You could say, again, this is the format plus, and then the country code. So 1 for the USA. And then you type in the phone number. And then for message body, you could just put in some text here, but you can in fact use form fields if you want to. And that is super cool because you can make your message super customized. You could say, Dave, you have a service appointment at 12 Main Street at 2 p.m. right in your SMS message, because you could pull those form fields, that field data right out of the form. And you do that here using the form data prefix. So we've shown you how to do that here in these notes as well. Then the last thing is your Twilio settings. We use Twilio to send the SMS messages. So if you have a Twilio account, this is where you fill in your service ID, authorization code, and phone number. If you don't have those things, though, you can tell Alpha that you want to use the one that's built into Alpha by just going angle bracket system angle bracket. Okay, you can copy that, and you want to put that in each one of these fields. If you leave this blank, it's going to give you an error. But if you put this in, then it knows that that's what you're going to use. If I left this blank, I shouldn't have done that. All right. This is a test. All right, cool. So now I've updated my on submit event here. And all I have to do now is click OK and click Save Definition. And by the way, it ended up creating this JSON thing. I mean, this is really what gets transferred back in here. So this is the JSON that we just created. But you didn't have to do that yourself, thanks to the builder. So we'll click Save Definition. We'll click Yes. And it's done, and it's there. And now if I pop back over into TransForm Central, and I say define on submit events, there should now be, there is now a second SMS message on submit event. So that is that. I want to give you a couple of warnings. First of all, is it appears that angle bracket system thing, we ran into a bug with it this morning, which is being looked at right now. So if you try it today, may not work. Hopefully tomorrow or the next day, or if you're watching this on video, by the time you see the video, it should all be up and running. And I think that's about it. Let me just go over a couple of things though. First of all, just a quick reminder that when you update your on-submit events from Alpha Anywhere, you are overwriting the on-submit events in Alpha TransForm. So make sure you first fetch any of the existing definitions into Alpha Anywhere before you write it. Second thing is, for simple cases, you don't need to use Alpha Anywhere at all to set up SMS notifications, like I showed earlier on. And if you do choose to use Alpha, then you get the benefit of the customizations. For example, you can compute what phone number it's supposed to be sent to. You can decide under what conditions it should be sent, and you have more control over the message, and can include form fields and stuff like that. And the last thing to remind you is that we do now have Twilio, and for that matter, SparkPost. If you want to send email instead, everything applies exactly the same with email as well. So I hope you found that useful. If there are any questions, I'm going to go take a look at the questions box. Doesn't appear to have anything. Give you guys about a few more seconds to type something in. And if not, we'll break. Does SparkPost EU work? Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure. You can probably use our EU. You could probably use our SparkPost account to send to things in the EU. But right now, it does not have. Oh, it doesn't work there. Interesting. Interesting. No, so I guess not. Let me put in a note to make sure that we can have that working in the EU. So so I take that back. So email notifications. We'll do a quick check. Gotcha. Okay, so it's for SparkPost accounts that use an EU domain. I'm just reading here through. All right, wonderful. Well, we'll make a note of that, and we'll get back to you on that one. If you have other questions. No, that looks like it. Hey, wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Sarah, for being here. Hope to see you at our next TransForm Tuesday. Take care, have a great week, and stay well. Bye-bye.